Hi friends, this is Judson here, and we want to be able to share with you today's encouraging word. Thank you very much for joining us here today. We're going to be in the book of John chapter 6, and looking at verses 1 to 15, and I'm real excited for us to be able to share God's word, encourage one another, and see where this goes today. Today's story takes place some time after the last story. The last story, Jesus has been healing people and having people testify about him and all those other various things. And in John chapter 6, we jump up and we are able to see that here we go. It says, chapter 6, verse 1, it says, "After this, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a large crowd was following him because they saw the signs that he was doing on the sick." When Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. Now, the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. I'm going to stop there for a second. So, here we are. Jesus is in the Galilee region, around the Sea of Galilee. And Sea of Galilee is this really big, someone called it a lake today. It's a sea. It's about 7 miles across. You can see all the way across it. When I hear the word sea, I think of something grander. And when you're over there, you're just like, that's it. But okay, and that's the Sea of Galilee. So, but it's a beautiful area, a beautiful place. The northern area around it is really, really hilly. There's a lot of hills and mountains over there. And somewhere over there, Jesus went over and sat down and decided to start teaching people. It tells us in here that it is Passover time, so everyone is reminding themselves of the Passover lamb that has been slain for them, and for the forgiveness of their sins, their deliverance from being in the bondage of Egypt. And there is a sense they want to be freed from the bondage of the Romans at that time over there. And Jesus is walking around and looking like a Messiah and talking like a Messiah and acting like a Messiah. And there's a lot of people that want a Messiah to get rid of the Romans. And Jesus is not so concerned about the political situation of their day. He's more concerned about our hearts, and he's concerned about your heart and my heart. And so that's one of those things for us to be able to acknowledge and recognize over there. All right, so there's a bunch of people that come over and hear him talk. And verse 5, lifting up his eyes, and he seeing that the large crowd was coming towards him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat?" He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he was about to do. And so here Jesus goes over and he asks a simple question: where do we find the resources to be able to properly care for the people that are over here? And Philip looks over at this large crowd, and he's going to be like, nope, we don't have those resources. That is crazy. Let them fend for themselves and die. That's kind of what Philip's going to say. Anyways, verse 7, Philip answers him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to get a little. I'm going to stop right there for a second. 200 denarii is about 8 months worth of wages. It's a lot of money. 8 months of wages is a lot of money. And so he's like, hey, that's not for everyone to be satisfied or to be full. That's for everyone to get a little. You're getting a picture that. When Jesus says, who's going to supply for the answer to this solution, Philip's saying, I don't have that, and nobody here has that. And Jesus is looking for a faith answer to a physical problem over here, and Philip is only looking with physical eyes at this situation. Verse 8. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, there's a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they for so many? Andrew, at least, is able to acknowledge that, I know that there's a huge need. There's just this massive need that we have in front of us. Where Philip refuses to even acknowledge that we have any resources. Andrew says we do have some meager resources. 5 loaves and 2 fishes is not a lot of resources. But we do have that. And so with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, I mean, like, what is that? We have meager nothing to offer God in this situation. But God is able to provide for us something that is truly miraculous. And so Andrew kind of throws out there, well, you know, we do have something, and he wants them to be able to acknowledge that. Jesus says, verse 10, then Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Jesus then took the loaves, and then when he gave thanks, he distributed those loaves as they were seated, so that the fish, and so also with the fish, as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, he told his disciples, "Gather up the leftover fragments, that nothing may be lost." So they gathered them up and filled the 12 baskets with his fragments, with from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. When the people saw the sign that had been done, said, "This is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world." And I just want to stop over there for a second. Here, God is able to make something huge happen out of nothing. And this is something that we do believe true still for today. We are in difficult times right now. We are in times where it feels like there is less and less and less around us all the time. And I'm not just talking about money and resources. It just feels like there's less available to us. There's less we can do. There's less options available to us. But I want you to know that God is able to do so much more than the world of less that we all live in. And God was able to make 5 loaves and 2 fish, be able to feed 5,000 plus men. That's fantastic. That's a great miracle. And for us to be able to recognize that. When the crowd saw this, they declared, once again in verse 14, that Jesus is the prophet. What they're saying there is in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 18. I alluded this in yesterday's talk. But in Deuteronomy 18, Moses himself says, there is going to be another prophet. There is going to be another prophet who will be greater than me. And this idea that Moses was able to take the people when the Israelites, the Jewish people, were wandering through Sinai and all those other various places through the wilderness. He was able to lead them when they had nothing, and God provided manna from heaven to come down upon the people. God provided. When they had nothing, no resources, God was able to provide for them. And that was one of the ways that God was able to show the people that Moses was the prophet that they needed at that time. Well, we have this miracle here for us to be able to see that Jesus is the new Moses. Jesus is the one that is greater than Moses, and he is able to do yet the same miracles. And the people who knew Moses, or knew of Moses and studied him and trained to be able to follow him, they were saying, hey, we think we found the prophet, because he was able to supply for them. Well, they were not in the wilderness as in a desert wilderness. They were in a pretty desolate place. They were in a place where they had no food, they had no resources, they had nothing there for themselves. And yet God was able to provide. And so that's an encouragement for us. One final verse for us to be able to look at. Just want to be able to share this with you. Think about it and present this to you. Verse 15, perceiving that they were about to come and take him by force and make him king, Jesus withdrew again to the mountains by himself. Jesus sees that everyone wants to be able to make him some sort of political leader, to be able to fix their political messes in life. But Jesus wasn't interested in fixing political messes in their lives and being a political leader. Jesus wants to rule your heart. And Jesus wants to be able to be the king of your heart. And he wants to be able to be a spiritual leader. Later on, when he comes back, he'll be a political leader, and we can have all that stuff. But this time when Jesus came, he wasn't interested in getting involved in politics and all that other stuff. So with that, I just want to be able to encourage you to let Jesus be the king of your heart. For he is the one that is able to take nothing, meager nothing, and turn it into something bountiful and blessing and wonderful for you. That's what today's story is about. Hey, I look forward to seeing what God's word is about with you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.